it's interesting to me. Again, I was on vacation when this whole brouhaha came with the people that are coming out attacking that Washington Post columnist, Elizabeth Brunig, and attacking Alex. It's the same people that supported Hillary Clinton. I know it's the same people that supported Hillary Clinton, pushed the Bernie bro narrative, and have very, very much favored more neoliberal centrist candidates like Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Kirsten Gillibrand, led by Neera Tanden. And if you don't know Neera Tanden, basically she's the leading member of the neoliberal, centrist, really Republican, if you ask me, think tank crowd. A lot of these think tanks in D.C., heavily funded by special interests, by the way, write a lot of the, co-write basically a lot of the legislation that gets passed as progress in this country. So, Neera Tanden, she didn't like that Washington Post story on Beto O'Rourke, or Alex's piece pointing out that Beto broke his pledge to fossil fuel companies and all that. Here is, this is not in order of tweets, but Neera wrote, Brunig's piece in the Post on Beto is just the latest attack by a supporter of Senator Sanders on Beto, joining Jelani, Jacobin, and Sirota. Feels a bit orchestrated, and clearly they are worried. So there's so many things I could respond about this tweet. First of all, when Neera Tanden talks about feels a little orchestrated, you literally work in hand with Correct the Record, an orchestrated network of paid trolls that go after progressives online. So I don't really want to hear you questioning if something's orchestrated or not. Oh my God, what a hypocrite. But Elizabeth Brunig's piece on the Post, which very gingerly pointed out that Beto O'Rourke's platitudes and rhetoric doesn't actually match his voting record, I don't consider that attack. That's just journalism. She's a columnist. She's giving her opinion based on facts. To Neera Tanden, this is an attack by a Bernie supporter and a coordinated ring of attacks from a Bernie supporter. That's really the pot calling the kettle black here, because Neera Tanden literally orchestrates attacks on progressives for a living. So that was the first tweet. Then, again, not in order, but you got David Sirota, great journalist, says, so basically in the name of Democratic Party unity, Neera Tanden just ignited a legit scandal for Beto O'Rourke. Pretty incredible turn of events. And Sirota is responding to the other article that I'm talking about from Alex at Real Sludge, I believe. So Neera, and David says, Neera is slamming Washington Post columnist Elizabeth Brunig. It's almost as if Neera's think tank that is sponsored by Wall Street moguls and a foreign fossil fuel dictatorship, Saudi Arabia he's talking about, isn't actually a think tank, but is instead a corporate wing of a political party. And I got to tell you, one of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning, because I don't know what David Sirota does for a living, because he's literally, I think he tweets like 750 things a day. It's just a crazy amount of tweets. But I like his tweets, and I like his politics, and I like his reporting. But he's basically pointing out that, Neera Tanden, you're basically like a vessel for corrupt special interests. That's who's donating to you. And you're also, essentially, you are funded by Saudi Arabia, the Center for American Progress. So Neera, I've seen this movie before. I wish you were chastising attacks on Democrats instead of this, but hope you're very well. She's not responding to David Sirota there. She's responding to somebody else who was in on this whole fight. So to Neera Tanden, no. You're not allowed to, quote, attack. It's not an attack to point out, hey, all these people talking about Beto O'Rourke, maybe you should look at his voting record. Maybe, and the fact that he's a part of a new Democrat coalition in Congress that's literally a centrist voting group of congressmen that literally is like fresh out of the Clinton department of politics. These are the centrist Democrats that Beto, as a congressman, was a part of that group. I call whatever it's called, New Democrat Coalition. It's not exactly an attack to say, hey, We think he ran an inspired campaign. This is what Elizabeth Brunegg wrote. Yeah, he ran an inspired campaign, but I'm not exactly like getting up here excited for a 2020 run because look at his voting record. And then you have Alex, who wrote a piece basically pointing out, hey, this guy broke the no fossil fuel money pledge. He took, I believe, over 30 donations above $200 from oil and gas people, including 20 from fossil fuel executives. So it's not enough that you're just not taking corporate PAC money. You could be taking a lot of money from the very industries you say you're going to go after from executives or large donations from individuals in those networks. And I don't think those executives or those individuals from those organizations are donating to you because they want you to take down their industry or regulate their industries tighter. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say? I just find the whole thing ridiculous and more of this nonsense, because if you dare report or write anything based on facts about Beto O'Rourke or any neoliberal centrist, Neera Tanden's coming after you. And Soroto, again, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that there are definitely some things to admire about Beto. However, he is not being helped by now being branded as the stalking horse of Neera Tanden and her Wall Street think tank. Oh, I love it. Keep it coming, Soroto. And Neera says, defending a range of Democrats from attack is not an attack. As many know, I have defended Kamala, I won't indict, Steve Mnuchin, Harris, and Cory Booker from attacks as well. Cory, I'll bend over for any Wall Street donation, Booker, that is. This is just the latest. I'm sorry those attacks on Democrats don't seem to bother you, but perhaps I'm misreading your tweet. So you're not allowed to, quote, point out any potential Democrat presidential candidates, the inconsistencies of their record and money they take from what they're saying rhetorically. And then she says, so great to hear from you, Helen Brosnan, been a long time. No one knows if Beto will run. If he runs, he'll have an agenda for the country. Feel free to judge it then. Seems a bit premature to judge before then. One possibility for criticism is to keep him out. And you know what's interesting? When Neera Tanden and her ilk, when they say no one runs, no one knows if he's going to run, that's actually a lie because it's currently speaking, Neera Tanden and her progressive think tank are actively trying to get him to run. They are actively trying to get people that they think can beat Trump, but they know won't actually really go after Wall Street or fossil fuel companies or their donors. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. We want to beat Trump, but we also don't want an actual progressive. So when she says nobody knows that Beto's going to run, no, that's not how this works. As we speak, the Center for American Progress, Neera Tanden, and their donors are trying to get Beto to run, to see how much money can he raise, because that's the first thing that these centrist neoliberal Democrats still think. How much money can we raise? Because they think money equals victory. Hillary Clinton showed you by outraising Donald Trump 2-1. Literally, she outraised Donald Trump 2-1. Money doesn't always equal victory. Of course, she did win the popular vote. We need to point that out. However, in America, stupidly and ridiculously, we don't go by the popular vote. We have an outdated, archaic electoral college. So it's just interesting when Neera Tanden says, oh, no, Beto, can't attack him. It's an attack if you point out that he takes a lot of money from fossil fuels. He did take money from Wall Street, which I pointed out in my story. And, how dare you attack Beto O'Rourke? Because the truth is, they are actively trying to get him to run. Because Beto O'Rourke, and I'll be attacked for saying this, not about race, but it's just the fact, Beto O'Rourke is the next Barack Obama. Tell you the truth. And by the way, I got caught up in Obama just like many of you did in 2008. I don't even think Beto O'Rourke is as charismatic as Obama. But, he's a skinny dude. He is inspiring. He ran against, Ted Cruz, so that inflates your value in the first place. And he has a lot of similarities to Obama. Talks about tighter regulations on Wall Street while taking money from Wall Street. Talks about big oil and going after big oil while taking money from big oil. Talks about transcending our politics when he's literally just the same old in our politics. If you haven't learned anything from the last 20, 30 years of neoliberal Democrats parading around as progressives, has the income inequality shrunk? Because that chart is getting bigger starting in 1981. And by the way, if you know political history, in the 80s was when the Clintons and the neoliberal centrist Democrats started gaining control of the party. To wrap this up, this segment, the bottom line is this. Beto O'Rourke is free to run for president, but enough from Neera Tanden, because the attacks from me and other progressives, they're coming. The attacks. Because when Cory Booker runs, when he's going to run, you better believe I'm going to report on his corruption. You know, he might be a new, born again, he's like a born again progressive, now doesn't take corporate PAC money. Same thing with Kirsten Gillibrand. They found Jesus suddenly after Bernie Sanders made it a priority. And these politicians started being shamed for taking money from the very individuals and corporations that are destroying this country and destroying your life and making you live paycheck to paycheck. Suddenly, Kirsten Gillibrand, Cory Booker, they have found Jesus on money in politics. Not good enough. Kamala Harris, you've been a senator for 5 minutes. You didn't indict. You didn't prosecute Steve Mnuchin when you had an opportunity as California Attorney General. And frankly, what have you done as a senator? But they want Kamala Harris to run because if you report on Kamala Harris, if you report on her accurately and challenge her and the money she takes and all that, well, she's a woman and she's black. So you're going to be painted, myself and others are going to be painted as a racist and a sexist. And that's a 2 for 1. That's a two for 1. I'm going to go after all these people because we don't have time for fake Republican. We don't have time for Republican lights masquerading as progressives in this country. That's not going to beat Trump. Not going to beat Trump. And it's also why we're in this situation. I'm seeing on Twitter, because I did a segment yesterday that, you're belittling Russiagate and the seriousness of it and all this shit. No, I'm not. The point is, you cannot defeat extreme conservatism, which extreme conservatism is a large reason why we're in the economic bind as a country that we are. A lot of this started with Ronald Reagan, but you can't beat that. There's no strategy that will defeat extreme conservatism, because even with an Obama defeating a McCain, even with an Obama defeating a Mitt Romney, well, 2 historically weak candidates, by the way, Romney and McCain, even with that, you can't defeat extreme conservatism and the policies and unwind those policies with neoliberal policies, because neoliberalism is extreme conservatism. It only sounds gentler. That's the point. Neoliberalism is, generally speaking, not so different than extreme conservatism economically. It just sounds a lot softer and nicer to immigrants and minorities and women. That's the difference, folks. Red economics, we only have 10 years, according to Chris Hedges. You're right. So that's what I think about Neera Tanden. And that's what I think about these neoliberals pretending to be progressive. And they are the guardians. They're the guardians. So they are going to protect Beto and Kamala and Cory from Bernie bros and our attacks. No. Guess what? Neera Tanden, you supported Hillary Clinton. Your wing of the party lost to an orange orangutan. And now you need to shut the fuck up and go be quiet.